What's up, comic book fans? And welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me. And today, we got more gang war. This time, by way of Marvel's newest hero, Mary Jane Watson, aka Jackpot, in this special one-off issue titled Jackpot #1. So, if you're wondering how the hell MJ got powers, this was shown back in the Amazing Spider-Man #25 by author Zeb Wells, as well as the miniseries Mary Jane and Black Cat. But long story short, MJ was stuck in another dimension for like 4 years, where she began a relationship with a man named Paul and helped raise 2 children. Now, while she was in there, Paul developed a gauntlet for MJ that acted like a slot machine and gave her random superpowers. Sometimes useful ones, and sometimes not so useful. So then, in the Amazing Spider-Man issue #31, while dealing with the loss of the 2 kids, which happened back in Amazing Spider-Man #26, along with the death of Kamala Khan, Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat, gifted MJ with a very own new super suit. And it was there where we got our first official appearance of Mary Jane as Jackpot. Which brings us to this issue. And if you're ready to find out how MJ or Jackpot makes her presence felt in this new gang war, let's get it. So this story picks up with MJ smack dab in the middle of a fight with Electro, and she's thinking to herself that our choices lead us exactly where we're meant to be. Then we see Electro giving her a hard time about the nickname Jackpot, when Electro then grabs MJ, draining the electricity from her gauntlet, causing MJ to fall from the sky. Then we transition back over to earlier that day, when MJ and Paul were seeing a counselor about the loss of their kids. We last saw them in a session in the Amazing Spider-Man issue #31, and they were not coping well at the time. But now the couple seems to be in much better spirits. And this is where we find out that the doctor had given them an exercise to write down their fears in a journal, in which Paul has completed but MJ hasn't. As MJ tells the doctor that putting her fears down on paper was difficult for her because she felt that would give them more power. But then she tells the doctor that she would do it by the time they meet again. So after they leave their counseling session, they go visit a bar that's conveniently right next door to the clinic, and they sit down for some drinks. MJ then brings Paul a special concoction created by the bartender, but Paul absolutely hates it, and he spits it out. And just as he does, there's a huge explosion outside. When they step out to see what's happening, they notice that this gang war has made its way to where they're at. And we see Madam Mask's crew battling Big Ben's crew right out in the open. And both crews open fire on each other. So now MJ and Paul take cover behind an overturned vehicle. Then MJ notices that there's people there that need help. So Paul is able to create a diversion by setting off some nearby speakers in a TV shop to distract the gangsters, while MJ leads the bystanders in the opposite direction. And once MJ and Paul regroup, they realize that they're in a war zone, and MJ sees this as her call to action. So MJ then suits up as Jackpot, and then we learn that Paul made some special modifications to her gauntlet. He added a power limiter that reduced the possibility of her getting the best powers, but it also minimizes the possibility of her getting a weak one. So then we see Jackpot headed for action towards some nearby smoke, while Paul acts as her eyes and ears, or her guy in the chair, to quote Ned from the MCU Spider-Man movies. Then we see as she gets to the Bronx, she notices Spider-Man is there fighting the armadillo, so she offers him some aid and assistance. So now we get to see a team up from these 2 classic Marvel characters, and I can't help but wonder what Stan Lee would have thought about seeing this. May he rest in peace. As we see Spider-Man web up Armadillo, and MJ use some vine powers to pair with his webs, and they take him down pretty easily. Then they notice She-Hulk fighting Man-Bull, and they jump in and give her a hand. So MJ hits the slot machine, her gauntlet, and then gets some ice powers and freezes Man-Bull, taking him out the game. Then She-Hulk and Jackpot introduce themselves to one another, and She-Hulk hands Jackpot her lawyer's card. As Spidey tells them he just got a call from the other Spidey, who we know is Miles Morales, and that he needs some help near the Manhattan Bridge with Hobgoblin. And just then a bolt of lightning hits right in front of him. Then we see that it's Electro, who tells them she was gonna take down Armadillo and Man-Bull, but now she'll settle for our heroes. But MJ, she's feeling herself now, and she tells She-Hulk and Spidey to go ahead and help out the other Spider-Man, cause she's got this. So they take off, leaving MJ one-on-one with Electro. So then, we get some pretty bad trash talk, if I must say so, between the two. But then we see Electro get the upper hand as she kicks MJ onto a nearby rooftop, which then catches us back up to the now and the beginning scene of this issue. And we see when Electro grabbed that gauntlet, draining the energy from it, it actually gives her an extra boost. And now, like a fiend wanting that next hit, she's hooked as we see MJ falling from the sky. But then she's able to catch a nearby fire escape and hide in a conveniently empty apartment while Electro searches for her. Then she calls for Paul, who tells her that her tech went completely offline, but he was able to remote boot it back up. He then lets her know that he managed to trigger her backup power supply, and he'll look at it when she gets back home. But MJ, she's not ready to call it a night just yet, and she says that it's her fault that Electro is now supercharged. So this is when MJ gets the idea that since Electro wants another hit of her power, that maybe if they remove the limiter, it could overload Electro. But Paul, of course, is reluctant to make this change. He added that limiter to keep MJ safe, but she knows that this superhero lifestyle comes with risks, and she's willing to take them. She spent too much time with Peter Parker to not know that with great power must come great responsibility. So Paul then removes the limiter, and now Jackpot is fully maxed out. So then we go back to Electro, who's still on the prowl looking for another hit. And just as she threatens to take a hostage, Jackpot shows up, blasting Electro with some wind powers, knocking her to the ground. And as Electro gets back up and goes after Jackpot, she notices MJ's bad acting, which is a coincidence because MJ used to be an actress. But Electro sniffs out the trap, and she heads on up out of there to search for more of Madame Mask's crew. So then we get some inner monologue from MJ about protecting the city and facing her fears, having to overcome them and finding clarity to show her through the darkness. But then we see Electro heading back to her boss, the Beetle, when Jackpot catches up with her using those wind powers, and Jackpot's ready for another round. So now Jackpot has the upper hand when she hits Electro with a tornado. And now Electro is the one with the bad acting, as she acts all worried that Jackpot is gonna hurt hundreds of people with her tornado. And then Jackpot manages to slam Electro to the ground, and now we see people recording video of this fight on cell phones. Then Jackpot gives Electro an ultimatum: to fight back and get whooped, or stay down and accept defeat. But if you've read comics before, then you know what happens next. As Electro zaps a nearby bridge full of traffic, and the bridge begins to crack, then now Electro is the one issuing an ultimatum: capture me or save the people. And for MJ, of course, this isn't even a choice. She has to save the innocent people, and she flies towards the danger. So then we see Jackpot get to the bridge as it's starting to crumble apart, and Paul has no choice but to watch nervously. Then she tells him bad news. She's gonna need to reschedule their dinner plans, and she uses the wind to hold the bridge together the best she can. Then we see Spider-Man and She-Hulk come back to help Jackpot out, as Spider-Man is able to web up the bridge. Then Jackpot tells them that she's gotta bounce to go get her tech checked out. Then Spider-Man tells her that they're gathering the troops to make their final push in this gang war. Then he does the dummy, and he calls her MJ right in front of She-Hulk, and tells her that if she gets her gauntlet fixed, they can use her help. And that's when She-Hulk lets MJ know that she can sue Spider-Man for that if she wants to, because it's a breach of the Secret Identity Act. So MJ lets her know that she's got her card, and then they go their separate ways. Then we see Jackpot walking the street, along with some more inner monologue once again, stating that our choices lead us exactly where we're meant to be. That she's always wanted to be a part of something bigger than herself and help others, and that being Jackpot gives her that chance. And as she hears someone calling for help, she thinks to herself, it's been a long road getting here, and she's just getting started. And that's the end of the issue, ladies and gentlemen. So this was an interesting story, and I wasn't necessarily a fan of some of the dialogue in this issue, but I did absolutely love the artwork. And I'll say that I may check out the upcoming series titled Jackpot and Black Cat. To have powers represented by a mock slot machine seems a bit wonky, but I do like heroes with flaws, and random powers are definitely a flaw. So you guys let me know in the comments what you thought about this issue and Mary Jane Watson now being a superhero in the main Earth 616. And if you have interest in her and Black Cat's upcoming series. And if you enjoyed the video and the channel, then please help a brother out and drop a like, share, and subscribe to Comics Icons for more icons in the comic book world. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I'm out. Peace.